Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the POPsicle, a sweet new show where a guest and I lap up what's new in pop culture. My name is RJ from RJ's Food Rocks, and today is going to be a very special episode because we have a very special guest, themed entertainment queen, and branding boba expert. It's Emily. Hi, Emily.
Hi, RJ. How's it going?
I'm good. Thank you so much for joining me. I love this topic, and I'm so excited to talk to you about it because I know you equally love it as much as I do.
Very much so. Yes, very excited to be here. I can't wait to chat.
Yes. Okay, so today on the POPsicle, we will be unwrapping the 2020 film Minari. Here is your Too Cold Didn't Eat, TCDE. So Minari was a film, it's a semi-autobiographical take on the writer and director Lee Isaac-Chung's upbringing. The plot follows a family of South Korean immigrants who try to make it in the rural United States during the 1980s. It stars Steven Yeun, Han Yeri, Alan Kim, Noel Kate Cho, Yunyu Jung, and Will Patton. Famously declared one of the best films of 2020, and let the awards show it. It earned 6 nominations at this year's Academy Awards, including Best Picture, Best Director, Best Original Score, Best Original Screenplay, Best Actor for Steven Yeun, and Best Supporting Actress for Yunyu Jung, who won the award for her performance, making her the first Korean to win an Academy Award for acting. It only took 93 years, but hey, you know what? She's paving the way. The movie also won the Golden Globe Award for Best Foreign Language Film. It was nominated for the Screen Actors Guild Award for Outstanding Performance by a Cast in a Motion Picture. And it also earned 6 nominations at the BAFTAs this year, including Best Film Not in the English Language. So the film was produced by Christina Oh from Plan B Productions, and then later was distributed by A24. Just like a lot of the movies of the 2020 season, this movie premiered in Sundance, I think early 2020, I think 2019, and was fully ready to be released theatrically, but because of the pandemic, there was a lot of kind of extension and pullback of when the movies were released. This movie, the way I saw it, was on a live, A24 did live streaming, or you signed up for a live watching on your own home TV that was followed by a Q&A. But since then, leading up to the award ceremony, the movie has been released for video on demand. The title of the movie, Minari, relates to a plant. It is a water celery, or Japanese parsley. So it's kind of like a parsley vegetable that is native to Korea, that becomes kind of like a focal point of the movie thematically, and right at the end, it saves the day, let's say. So if you haven't watched the film yet, we suggest that you watch it before we dive into this discussion, because we're going to be spoiling the movie, but mostly praising the movie. So get ready for that. Yes. So we are going to start like how we do with all of my POPsicle episodes, which is we talk about what we loved about this piece of pop culture, the sweet. So let's talk about the sweet, and we are going to start with Korean excellence, Asian excellence of our child star, Alan S. Kim, who plays the child in this movie. I mean, talk about a masterful performance from an 8-year-old. And yes. As much as I loved his performance, I truly feel like his performance, just as himself outside of the movie, has far exceeded my expectations. His press work has been amazing. He wore a cowboy outfit to the red carpet. He said Sonic the Hedgehog was his celebrity idol, and he loves BTS. And so as a fellow ARMY, we have to stand.
We have to. He's our Yeah, what sealed the deal for me, one, he had just a great performance in the movie itself, but I mean, he's a child actor, so you can expect it to an extent, but then when you see him in real life and his press and his interviews, and you just see what charisma he has as a real child, quote unquote, and then the fact that he can give that performance, I don't know, just that whole dynamic, I was just this kid is everything to me. And I watch when he won his award and he goes, oh my goodness, I'm crying, I watch that once a week. That gives me so much serotonin. I just think he's so wonderful and such a just I love him so much.
He is so happy when he wins that award. He like starts by like really calm and collected. He's like, "Oh my gosh, thank you so much. I want to thank A24." And then just starts fully crying tears of joy. Like he
Yes,
can't even speak. And it's like, oh, I want the world for him. I want
yes.
him I watched like this one interview of him from like I don't remember if it was W Magazine, but it was meant to be like learn Korean kind of thing. So like his what
Oh,
he was answering both in Korean and in English, and it was subtitled in Korean.
mhm.
And it was so funny because there was one question that he answered and he was like well, first he like sang Dynamite by BTS as like my favorite
Oh.
art is BTS, and then he sang Dynamite and did some of the dancing. But he also was
Mhm.
like, "Yeah, I come from an acting family. My sister is currently playing young Elsa in the Frozen on Broadway tour, but she's a theatrical actress, and I'm a film actress
Oh,
or a film actor." I was like,
I love that.
"Oh,
That's awesome though, because I remember when they announced that touring cast, and I saw young Elsa was this little Asian girl, and I was like, oh my god, yay! That's so funny. I love that. That's a connection.
yes, it's all in the family. The talent from this
All in
family."
fun. Yeah. I
Um,
love
I
that.
think like we loved Alan so much playing young David, but I think like this was kind of like a testament of just the cast overall because everyone in the cast
Hmm.
was so good. I mean, obviously Steven Yeun and Yunyu Jung has gotten like accolades for their performances, but everyone else really
Hmm.
completes the ensemble here. I don't think Noel Cho as the sister, Kate, right? As
Yeah.
Anne,
Yeah.
gets enough credit with her performance because she is like the kid who is like she's obviously the older kid, but she's still like a child, but she has to do those
Hmm.
like like performing that role of like I'm the oldest kid, so I have to like take a bigger responsibility in
Hmm.
trying to like keep my parents and like the reality that we're in like together. So she does
Hmm.
a lot of like parenting for David basically in the
Yeah.
story, which is like I'm sure resonates with a lot of like not only like immigrant families but also just like first, like oldest child uh
Yeah.
in general. And I think she does a really good job of really grounding it. She's also like still fluent in Korean, unlike
Hmm.
David who like only understands but doesn't really speak that much Korean. So it's like
Hmm.
playing with a lot of dynamics in there that I think doesn't get enough attention because of just how grounded it is. Like the fact that she is still like together throughout the movie shows how
Hmm.
good she was. And
Yeah.
um like with her and then also Han Yeri's performance as the mom. I mean,
Hmm.
talk about just like keeping it together for the family and really
Yeah.
seeing her do an amazing job of trying to support the family and trying to believe that like this could be like you want to show that you support and you love and you believe what could happen for the
Hmm.
family, but also like
Hmm.
it's so hard. And she did a really good job of kind of like playing the middle and
Yeah.
being able to kind of like push and pull when things are hard and that she needs to break down, but at the same time pulling it all together immediately as soon as like the family is in need. And
Yeah.
I would have loved to seen her gotten a best actress nomination because she did a really good
Yes.
job.
Yes, I absolutely agree. And like also just seeing not so much her arc, but just the way that she plays like the first half of the movie and then the second act of like watching her break down
Yeah.
a little bit more and like that scene outside of I don't know what do you call it the chicken coop area when
Yeah,
she like
yeah.
finally advocates for herself and like stands up to her husband, like that scene itself was just deserved an award in itself. So yeah, I totally agree. I
Yeah.
think both Noel and Han Yeri should have gotten a lot more accolades than they did, but you do what you can in these times.
You do. You do. Um I am curious what you felt about like the whole dynamic of just the parents because I think
Hmm.
and I say I this is going to be a note that I'll make later on, but like when they interviewed Lee Isaac Chung, like he said that like there's kind of like this responsibility that like we have to tell the stories of the older generation because they're never going to
Mhm.
tell how hard they had to go through, because it's like, why do I
Yeah.
want to relive in that time where I had to go through? But
Mhm.
it's like, it's a way to kind of like memorialize how hard it was and how difficult it is just to have like our basic life,
Yeah.
and where we are today. So I definitely
Yeah.
felt that like the pressure for them to just make the correct decisions for their family, and
Mhm.
how they both had opposite ideas of what they think was best for the family and had to kind of like
Mhm.
find a way to make it work.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely related to that concept very much. With the parents specifically, it just was very reflective of my experience as a child, and I have an older sister as well.
Hmm.
Um, and I will say, like, we sit with a lot of privilege economically and just the way that we've made it in this world.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit different in that respect, but relationship wise between the parents was very relatable to what we grew up with. My dad immigrated from Vietnam to Canada during the Vietnam War. And that's when
Hmm.
he met my mom and everything. And they did very well for themselves in Canada. My dad ended up being an engineer, my mom a lawyer, but eventually my dad wanted to make the move to the States. Not sure the exact reason. I'm sure it was work related, something along the lines of that. But my mom did have to sacrifice a lot in making that move. She was an established lawyer in Canada. She was like on her way to a judgeship, different things like that. So when we
Hmm.
moved to the States, there was a lot of resentment there. Um, and again, this isn't a complete
Hmm.
parallel to what they were experiencing in the movie, but just having that dynamic of resentment. And like I often say, I don't
Yeah.
want to. I'm giving my parents a grace because I love them very much and they are great parents. But
Yeah.
growing up
Say.
with a dynamic of, yeah, like there's just so much resentment in that relationship, and unfortunately, you often think of like, what if they did end up divorced? And that was part of this movie. Spoiler
Yeah.
alert, when Monica, says something about like splitting up. So I don't know, just a lot of those dynamics was very reflective, and it just made me think a lot about my family and even this family, the fact that they did stick together in the end. Again, spoiler alert, sorry, I'm like dropping so many spoiler bombs. But
No, you're
and like
good.
seeing,
We warned them. We warned them.
yeah, yeah, watch the movie. But yeah, seeing them, like, I don't know, have that resilience in the end, and that last scene of them like all together on the floor was just a really beautiful thing. So yeah, I don't know, I just saw, it was very reflective of my experience, and I loved it.
Yeah, I would say like it parallels a lot on mine too. What I moved to America a little bit older. I was 13,
Mhm.
but my dad was very successful in the Philippines. He was in the military. He was in the Air Force. He was
Mhm.
actually retiring as a general, and then my mom was in like a nurse for a neurosurgeon. She was always like very busy and yeah, just very successful. But when we moved to
Mhm.
America, they were like, we want RJ and his brother to have like an American kind of like education and just like the
Mhm.
American dream almost.
Yeah.
So when I was here during high school, like there was a lot of resentment too, like from my dad who had to adjust. Also, like my parents were both 50 like when they moved, so it was like not only like
Mhm.
clashing culturally but also like privilege wise too, because they had a little bit more, they were from a higher like place in the Philippines, but moving to America it's like just denigrated to
Mhm.
just an immigrant, and like and so
Yeah.
there was a lot of kind of like class and privilege that they had to kind of like readjust, and so like feeling that kind of like resentment, which like you could watch this film and say that like Steven Yeun's character is like being selfish, right? Or like being self-centered
Yeah.
because he's trying to make this one specific American dream happen, which is like to be a
Right.
farmer, to like actually watch things grow and have actual things that he creates to help
Right.
support feed the family. But
Right.
it's like when you come from a place where like that literally isn't a possibility, like when you come from
Mhm.
countries that's not even like an option sometimes, or like it can't have the same, like you can be a farmer in a different country, but it's not going to have the same implications or same promise as it is in America, especially like
Mhm.
back in the where you could make something out of it. Um, I think like, yeah, that being in that, like, it's like trying to be like, how can I fault my parents for believing in their dreams? You know,
Right.
like that's so
Right.
sad.
Right.
And I think they show a really
Yeah.
good idea, like a really honest depiction of like the mom wants to make the family kind of like just be able to like survive, and the dad wants to
Mhm.
like pursue this dream. Um
Yeah.
so yeah, it was just really fascinating, and like I definitely came out of it being like, you respect that generation so much because they are told mixed messages of like your dreams can come
Mhm.
true if you move to America, but also it's going
Right.
to be really hard for you.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah, and like honestly, like one of the most relatable slash like resonating scenes too was when they had to take David to the doctors. Right? Was that the
Mhm.
situation?
Yeah.
And then Alan, or not Alan Kim, Stephen Yun's character, brought the crops with him to pitch to the grocery store, and like he's killing two birds with one stone. But Monica
Yes.
was offended because she was like, "This is our child. You should be prioritizing our child." But I don't know. I feel like I've been in situations like that before where, we have business and family. And at the end, like,
Mhm.
even when they're, parents can be seen as selfish for these sorts of things. But at the end of the day, this character specifically, he was doing this for the betterment of his family and making sure that there was stability and, just, ability for their family to survive in that
Yeah.
area. So, yeah, I that was another scene that I was like, yeah, I've experienced this.
I feel that. I'm feeling that. Yeah, and like just being always in like the room of like just with your family knowing how hard they work, like when my mom first moved here, she had to like completely culture shock adjust from like being in an operating room in the Philippines with
Mhm.
to being in an operating room here, and like she had a really hard
Mm.
time because it was so much faster. She was older, and so she kind of had to like, well, I don't kind of fit in this new dynamic. She ended up becoming more of like a bedside nurse instead, and had to really
Mhm.
readjust like her professional experience. And I can't
Mhm.
help but think about the countless number of people who like have like full professions in their native
Yeah.
countries, and then they move to America and it's like they're fully
Yeah.
relegated to like service jobs, and like
Mhm.
just kind of like being the generation under that of like, it's so unfair because then we get to
Yeah.
live through and become what we want to be. Like we have the opportunities, go
Mhm.
to college, become the professions that we want, and it's like, oh my god, who knew? It's
Yeah.
just, it's so, I'm getting
Yeah.
emotional
Yeah.
just thinking about it.
I I don't know if you've seen this TikTok or not, RJ, but there's a TikTok going around of it's like a lot of like Asian creators are using it, of like them whispering like, I'm sorry I have to, live within these capitalist societies, but my parents didn't move here for me to be poor. Something like that. Something much more eloquent than that, but it's so funny. I'll have to send it to you. But I'm like,
I mean,
I understand.
full relatable content. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. That's so funny. Yeah, it's like, I'm sorry that I have to play into like, yeah,
Yeah.
capitalistic whatever crap. But like,
Right.
my parents literally moved here for me to be able to do that. So
Yeah.
that's so
Yeah.
funny.
It's so much more. It's so much more than that. Like our experiences and things like that. But is that TikTok and specifically is just so funny.
We cannot talk about this movie without talking about Yunyu Jung's performance as Grandma. How many? How many? Not only is she like an icon and fully like before this movie already had an illustrious career in Korea, that like it was even kind
Mhm.
of shocking that, and I've watched interviews with her, like Bang Joon-ho interviewed her with her
Mhm.
experience with this movie, and she was fully like, yeah, it's so weird. Usually when I'm in a movie, I don't get called in for the first day of shooting, but I was there. And she was like,
Oh.
it was so hot, and like, I didn't have a lot of things that I'm used to, but it's a good story. So I was like, I'll
Mhm.
do it. And I think like
Oh.
even when she was like accepting the role, she said that she didn't fully read the script, but she just asked like, is this a real story? Is this Lee Isaac Chung's real story? And they were like, yeah, this is his family. And
Mhm.
she was like, okay, I'll do it. And it's just like, I don't know, like it goes back to like the power of the story, I think.
Mhm.
And the way that they kind of used grandma's character as a way to really make you think about like the culture,
Mhm.
the stakes, like of what you're doing. Like she definitely
Mhm.
like did like mix up the whole story by adding her into it and adding basically another person to be a dependent and have to take
Mhm.
care of. But at the end of the movie, when what happens and there's a scene where grandma just like starts walking to nowhere,
Yes.
because of like what has happened, and just like trying to process the trauma, and like
Mhm.
the two children just shouting at her like, grandma come
Mhm.
back, and just following her. After the movie, I had to like stop and literally sit in this chair that I'm sitting in right now in this corner. And I just started bawling like from here, like fully 5 minutes after we watched this movie. I just sat here and started bawling because I could not get that image out of my mind, because it was like, that is the full epitome of like, just like that pain and that struggle to get
Mhm.
me to where I am today, just to, like, be here. And I was like, girl,
Mhm.
I cannot do this. I
Yeah.
cannot unpack this right now. I am so
Yeah.
busy. I do not have time for this. Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah. The last 20 minutes of the movie are very hard to watch.
Yeah.
I really had to, you know, yeah, just be very present in watching it. And
Yeah.
yeah, she's just amazing. And I feel like her performance too is just a testament of like the authenticity of the Isaac Chung's story and his, and what he wanted to tell, because the way that she's depicted as a grandmother, even so, is you don't see that often with like Asian family dynamics on screen.
Hmm.
So you could just tell that it was like so genuine, the relationship of her with David, as well as her relationship with Monica, and like Monica asking her to come and like live with them.
To
I thought
come. Yeah.
was just really nice to see. But yeah, any story that has to do with sacrifice, I get very emotional
Ooh!
with. I have to like build myself up to the
I
courage to
know.
watch
I
it.
know.
So yeah, I get where you're coming
Is
from.
that our plight as like first generation?
Yeah.
To like we're always, our first main trigger is like, look at what your parents have done for you. I'm like, oh my God.
Yes.
Like truly
Any
defines.
sacrifice.
uh,
Yeah. I don't know if you, not to go on another tangent, I don't know if you've seen Wind, the Sparks short on from Pixar.
Girl,
Um, oh my god,
oh my God.
that pains me. Like,
It's literally that. And that's the thing what I'm talking about. It's like our generation. You know how many Asian people our age are working at Pixar right now that are just like popping out this
yes,
content? It's like that. It's the one where they're like, it's the autism one. Like that's one
the float.
too.
Yeah.
Like,
Mhm.
yes, I
Yep.
mean, like even Bao, like my God, like
I
fully,
know.
like we are so we are so triggered by like what our family has done for us just so we could like be
Yeah.
in this country. It's so
Yeah.
insane, and like I feel like
Yeah.
kind of like defines our generation, which is like I've never really thought about that until
Mhm.
today.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh my God,
Yep.
happy AAPI Heritage Month from the POPsicle.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
All right. Well, unfortunately, we do have to talk about stuff that we may not have liked about this piece of pop culture. We usually call that the sticky in our show, but I'm not going to lie to you. There's really not much. Our main
Mm-mm.
sticky was like, should have won more awards.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Big
I
time.
mostly said like should have won more awards, and I think like I did have a bit of like, I feel and this is, oh my God, we're gonna get so philosophical right now, but like I was feeling guilty for celebrating Minari because
Mhm.
nothing was paid to The Farewell, which was my favorite movie of the year before, which is like in parallel a lot of similar themes. It's I think like The Farewell tackles a little bit more of like the cultural clash versus the insular
Mhm.
like family dynamic of Minari, because The Farewell was more
Yeah.
specifically about how can this Chinese American person deal with like traditions from their Chinese family that she completely does not understand and feels like so wrong, but it's like that's
Mhm.
tradition, so like tackling that. And like The Farewell basically got dust last year. I mean, they were
Yeah.
able to win Independent Spirit Awards for best feature. The Grandma won a Spitter Award. Aquafina won the Golden Globe for Best
Mhm.
Actress in the Comedy Series. But that's the thing. There's countless other movies and content that are like that got nothing. And it's like, I
Mhm.
hate that it's like, well, now it's trendy to like
Mhm.
of movies or content from like marginalized voices. So now we'll pay attention to them. And it sucks
Mhm.
because that's really a bigger complaint about just the culture in general and the industry in general, that like we need to
Yeah.
like amplify these voices.
Right. Yeah. And I don't know, like, if it comes from like a business or marketing stance as to why, some films don't get, as marketed as others. But another one that I brought up was Tiger Tail that came out last year.
Mhm.
That was Alan Yang's semi biopic as well. Actually, very much a parallel to Minari as in terms of just subject matter,
Yeah.
multi generational, subject of lots of flashbacks of the father and the sacrifices again that he had to make coming over to the States and different things
Right.
like that. But yeah, it was a wonderful film, but unfortunately didn't get a lot of recognition. I thought it absolutely deserved. So yeah, it's interesting to see like what gets picked up, so to speak, and what doesn't. And unfortunately, like the frustration that I have a lot of the times is like it's easy to really like put a target on like these types of films backs because people feel like I don't know. Let me try to explain this, but like because they're kind of one in a dozen, people find them like very easy to
Yeah.
like tunnel vision and be like, oh, this is what's wrong with
Yeah.
it. This is what should have been done, and this is what the real immigrant
Mhm.
story is, and things like that. But there is a broad scope of content and media that's being made that tells lots of different stories. So I don't know. I just feel like there are people that want to make these sorts of films, these sorts of videos,
Yeah.
different things like that. And how do we put the spotlight? How do we broaden that spotlight too? So I don't know.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, like the diaspora, like
Mhm.
we are showing one specific like Korean immigrant story, but like
Mhm.
the nuances of like a Vietnamese story or a Filipino story,
Mhm.
and even or like a Chinese story will be like it's a completely new world and a completely new
Mhm.
story with new nuances. So I think like yeah, when there's just one, of course you're not going to get anything, like you're not going to um it's not going to represent the whole entire like Asian immigrant
Yeah.
experience because there's just one that year. So yeah, I do
Right.
wish that like this helps more of this type of content, type of media, these stories to be promoted. And then the
Mhm.
last thing about this movie that I just felt sticky with was that like the racism wasn't rampant, which I was really afraid of. I was like, if
Yep.
I see a single bashing, if I see a single like Will Patton's
Yeah.
character like fully gave me like,
Mhm.
oh my god, he's gonna completely destroy this whole thing because he thinks it's like
Yep.
sinful. He's gonna burn this whole barn down. And I was like dreading if I
Yes.
got a single like violent action against racism due to
Mhm.
racism, I would have been like, I can't do this movie anymore. But
Mhm.
they didn't do that, which was like great, but there was like evident racism and it just felt like unnerving. Like there was this tone the
Mhm.
entire movie that like something could happen, which is
Mhm.
terrifying, especially if you think about like Koreans in the 80s in Arkansas. That is so
Mhm.
terrifying to me now. Like I would not be there. Oh my god.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And like, I don't know, now that you explained it really well just now, and I wonder if that was, an intentional thing that was done with the
Yeah.
directing of like, because, you, as, I don't know, any marginalized group like feels that kind of like looming presence of, oh, like, oh shit, is something going to happen in
Yeah.
like our daily lives. So I don't know. You just explained that really well. So maybe that was, an intentional piece. But I agree. Once I saw Will Patton's character pop up, I was like, "Oh God, like what's
Oh
gonna happen?
no!
Is he gonna
Literally
kill
the
his
entire time
family?"
the movie, I literally the entire movie, it was like he's gonna like kill them. He's gonna kill them, and like that's the unfortunate part. Like we and you even see it there, like in the movie, like Steven Yeun's character, like he was so skeptical of any outside help
Mhm.
whatsoever, and
Yeah.
like
Mhm.
obviously if you find people they can be there to help, which I think like that's kind of like what Monica's character was trying to like show, like
Mhm.
if there are people willing to help, even if it's just like me, like a spirituality thing, like a religious thing, because I just need
Mhm.
something to get through the like unknown of what our life is right
Yeah.
now. Even the like water douse, like the dowsing rods of like trying to find the well, like that was such
Yeah.
a great image of like not comfortable doing it in the beginning, but then like fully like let's do it at the end. It kind of shows
Mhm.
that like how much are we willing to be flexible with our own internal like things with our culture, um
Mhm. Mhm.
but still keeping what's important to us like close to us.
Mhm. Yeah.
Man,
Yep.
this movie really made me think about a lot of things.
I need to watch it again. Like watching it once was not enough.
I know. I think so too. I've seen like The Farewell multiple times, and every time it like
Mhm.
there's something new that I'm like, this small detail.
Mhm.
And I feel like in Minari, like the same thing is gonna happen. I mean, even like, when the grandma finally comes and then they're like smelling like the foods and the stuff that she brought from Korea,
Mhm.
I'm like, very
Mhm.
relatable. Like like my mom is
Yeah.
here this weekend. She literally did that. She's like, I have a bag full of food for you. Like, so I
Yeah.
just know.
Yep.
Uh,
Yeah. Have you ever had Minari?
no, I have not. So I'm really curious
Yeah.
to like figure out how to like best use it.
Yeah. Me neither. I haven't either. But when they were showing it on screen and like how they were using it, it reminded me a lot of watercress, which we eat a lot in like Chinese and Vietnamese
Hmm.
foods. And I will go to my grave
Yeah.
saying that that's like the best green in the world. So, but yeah, I wanna see if it's similar.
I love watercress too. Like growing up, we
Mhm.
would always go to this one restaurant that had like it was a Japanese restaurant, but it always had
Mhm.
uh kani salad, which is like a crab stick salad.
Mhm.
And I was like, there's a taste to it, and like there's something different about it. Couple years later realized it was Kewpie mayonnaise, so obviously. But then a
Oh,
couple
yep.
years after I discovered it was watercress. I was like, oh, that's what it is.
Yeah.
The journey. All right, let's wrap this up because I can literally talk about this movie for like another hour or two, but we won't do
Mhm.
that. So to wrap up, Minari is a very honest and beautiful portrayal of, kind of like this family. It's really great to see an Asian story that's told outside of like what pop culture is usually what we've known to be Asian culture, which is like outside of a Chinatown
Mhm.
rhetoric. The fact that it's in like a rural America is like I think what was so drastic at first, which I think
Mhm.
is really great.
Yeah, and I just wanted to touch on that a little bit too, because I think that's part of Asian stories that we don't often see in media, like you were
Hmm.
saying. I don't know. When I first saw the trailer and saw that that was kind of
The
what's the word,
setting,
like setting the setting for the film itself, that was what really made me very interested in the film itself. I
yeah.
had a boss in one of my older jobs that I had, and he's Hmong, and he was telling me that there's this huge Hmong community in like Michigan or the Midwest, because when
Hmm.
they were
Yep.
immigrating to America, that's kind of where they came to.
Minnesota.
And there's like a whole farmers association over there, and like people don't realize that. And I feel like a lot of the times we get pigeonholed into being, we're in Chinatown in San Francisco or New York or what
Yeah.
have you. But the Asian immigrants experience is just so much more than that. And I don't know, again, like that's just really what attracted me to this movie at first, was just seeing that like rural Asians and like what we go or what people have had to go through like in those experiences. So yeah, I just love it.
Yeah. And I think for me, my biggest takeaway was really I mean, honestly, the Minari of it all, like because it was such a deliberate plot point that like it felt like when they planted the Minari, it was like just something that just like disappeared and then fully
Mhm.
becomes like the ex machina at the end that ended up
Mhm.
saving them. It's like that's the
Yeah.
full culmination of like taking what you find important in your like original culture where you're from, taking it with
Mhm.
you and not losing sight of that because you never know when it's gonna like pay off for you.
Mhm.
Girl, I am, oh my
Yep.
God. Like seeing that visualize, I was like, it was
Yeah.
the Minari all along.
I know. Yes, this film is like a literal circle when you watch it. Like you see it as a circle in your head, and yeah, it's so good. And then like having the ability also to like share that with people, and you know that's gonna become their livelihood, and they're gonna be able to share that. And I think it's really
Yeah.
special. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, and like this
Minari
is a
all
complete
along.
yes, Minari all along. A complete like sidetrack to, or just like a side note. It's just like for me personally, as someone that has always wanted to like write something that like shows
Mhm.
my family's like just like what we went through. This
Mhm.
movie really was like, oh, RJ, you can do it too. And like learning more about like Lee Isaac Chung, how he developed the story. Like he wrote this while he was like teaching in Korea, really like
Mhm.
thinking about like, wow, look at what my parents actually went through. I think this is a
Mhm.
story that I need, like, I feel so strongly to tell. And I have a lot of those that I've, worked drafts in and that stopped because like I
Mhm.
lose steam. But like it's movies like this where I'm like, I need to go back and like, work at it again.
Yeah,
So
do it. I will watch that movie. I'll help fund that movie.
thank you. Thank you so much. Usually sometimes on our episodes we also share like a recipe that I've created during the just like that's influenced by this movie. But thankfully, A24 and the whole publicity team over at A24 is doing the work. So not only do they have like, first of all, these amazing set of postcards that they're selling, and their merch for Minari is so good. There's a set of
Mhm.
postcards that they're doing, and the artwork is like the Minari cast as the Norman Rockwell Thanksgiving. Oh my God, it's beautiful. I want to
Oh, I
like,
don't think I've seen that.
yeah, I'll send you the link. I'll put the links on the episode. But they actually for free, and I'll put the link down below for free. You can download family recipe cards that are based off of Minari, like the cast's family recipes that they've shared
Mhm.
to help promote the movie. So you can download those recipe cards below. I'll be making some of them. I'm very excited. So anyway, whew, after all that amazing discussion, we finally reached the end. So thank you so much for joining this episode of the Popsicle. If you are watching on YouTube, go ahead and comment below and let us know what you think about Minari. If you're listening to us on the podcast, make sure you leave us a rating or review. Tell me what you think of the show and what you'd like to hear more in the future. So, on the Popsicle episode that is coming out on May 27th, we will be doing our next book review. It is What's Mine and Yours by Naima Coster. So, make sure you get your copy. There's a link to get a copy on the episode notes. Emily, thank you so much. Please plug away whatever you'd like to plug. Where can people find you and all that?
Thanks for having me. Let's see what to plug. You can definitely follow my Instagram. It's at emilybhlee.art. I post a lot of my personal projects on there. You'll see some RJ Food Rock stuff on there. But my partner and I, we just bought a house, so we're actually planning on making some house renovation content. If you're interested in any of that, please give a follow. But yeah, if you're ever looking for graphic design work and need a freelancer or consultant or anything, let me know, and you can see my work on my Instagram there. So.
Yes, Emily also helped to develop, and by helped, I mean she did develop the branding and the images that you see for the Ampliverse that you're looking at right now, as well as RJ's Food Rock. So she's great. We cannot recommend her enough. You can find me at RJ Food Rocks on all of your social media, and my YouTube channel, RJ Food Rocks, premieres a new video every week. The Popsicle is part of the Ampliverse. You can find all of our shows on theampliverse.com. Thank you again for watching and listening. This has been The Popsicle. Bye! 감사합니다!
Discovering voices, building worlds. The Ampliverse.